Good morning, good evening, good night, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us tonight. July 29th, 2024. We're back again with our Milton Bell Global Media podcast for tonight. And we are blessed again to have one of our head coaches of our pro division, Division III championship basketball winning coach, Coach Roland Ross from Christopher Newport University. And once again tonight, this is our second time in a row, having his wife, Miss Bettina Ross, with us tonight to lead us in prayer. Ross family, how are you guys doing tonight? Thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. Sorry to keep you guys up here. We promise not to keep you too long, but I wanted to start the show off. Thank you, Miss Ross, for being with us tonight. We promise not to hold you long as well, but we would love for you to lead us in prayer tonight, if you will. Thank you so much for being with us. How was your day going, Miss Ross?
Doing absolutely fine. Thank you. I don't mind praying, and I say good evening to everyone, and thank you again, Milton, for this opportunity. You're so special to our family. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to say thank you. We thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for all that you have done. Continue to stay camped around our lives, Lord, and let this podcast be nothing but of you, and let it reach the people. Let it be educational. Let it be inspirational, Lord. And Lord, we put everything in your hand as we pray. In your name we believe. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Miss Ross, for your incredible words tonight. We've set quite a bar for ourselves to have the honor and being blessed with your words. So once again, it's priceless to have you start Coach Ross and I out tonight with a few words, positive words with your prayer. And Coach Ross and I, it's a tough crowd. That's a tough one to continue on with such a great headliner, Coach Roland Ross. But you and I will try to continue on as best we can, I'm sure.
We'll give it our best shot.
Yes, we will. Once again, thank you so much, Ms. Ross. Coach Roland Ross, championship winning Coach Roland Ross. How are you doing tonight, my brother? Welcome back tonight. This is our second show in a row. We are blessed to have you and your family once again. Coach Ross is one of my mentors. For those of you who have not had a chance to hear some of our previous conversations, Coach Roland Ross Jr. is one of my mentors in my life. And so I'm blessed to have the opportunity to have him on my Milton Bell Global Media podcast. I think this is our fourth podcast, Coach Ross, if I'm not mistaken. We've been on with both of your daughters as well as your wife and yourself. So it's a honor. Once again, you will never hear me not use those words. I can't use them enough when I describe your family and what you mean to me and my family. So how's your day going, Coach? How's your day going? I know you guys have been busy these past couple weeks with camp, and you guys have entertained and taught some youth down in your area. How's your day going and how's your week? Tell our listeners about the incredible things that you and your team do in your community to give back. Not only concentrating on the youth that are in your program at Christopher Newport University, but you guys are very dedicated to the youth in your area. I'm down in the 757 Newport News area. If you will, I know you're not a braggadocious type person, Coach, but brag on yourself and your team of young men and your head coach. You guys are doing some incredible things down in that part of Virginia.
Well, we try. Our head coach is John Kokorian, been here at Christopher Newport for 14 years, 14 seasons, I think. Don't quote me, but I'm close. We have set a pretty high standard of being able to put together some nice youth camps, and we kind of target our local community to try to make sure that the kids see our guys out working in the camp, trying to train them. So they will have something to look forward to when we can get those guys, those young folks to come to the games and watch our guys perform. So it's been a joy. We've had, good numbers, and we're just blessed. And, one thing about our camp is that we run a really, really structured, fundamental camp. And I think that's a forgotten art where guys, everybody can't be like the guys on TV, but some of the same fundamental principles still are very valuable as these kids, really want to make their JV team and varsity teams, and some guys want to go on to college, and fundamentals really mean a lot.
Well, yes, indeed, Coach. You are a very humble. You and your staff, you seem to be a very humble group of people. But I will say what probably needs to be said that you guys won't say. It's very hard to get great tutelage from tried and true people that are professional in what they do. And so, Christopher Newport, I think you guys won the Division III championship 2 or 3 years ago. 2 years ago, and so that's wisdom and that's knowledge that is on that staff. And so it's incredible what you guys are doing. I think this is your third month, I think, of doing camps weekly. And so I'm sure the parents that are able to attend and those kids, it sounds like a life-altering, positive experience for these young people.
Well, we try, and one of the words that we use a lot is, you just can't get better from watching. You got to be a participant. So we really encourage those young kids to come out, and we make it really, exciting and competitive, and but at the end of the day, we just try to encourage these kids. If you want to be good at something, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work, and so we've had 3 really, really good weeks this summer, and we're going to try to carry it. What we do is we have all our kids, all our returning and incoming players work the camp, and so that's an opportunity for them to bond and see some young kids being taught by them, which is helps our kids and really allow them to be grateful and it's good to watch our kids who are from the age 18 to like 22 be able to teach some kids that are like 8-9 years old, and you see their face kind of light up and gleam when they see these kids. And we're Division III, and they look at some of our kids like they're really, really outstanding, TV kind of guys, and it's pretty cool. So we try to do it during the summer, and that kind of hopes carry over into our work ethic for the fall.
Well, Coach, it's incredible in so many ways, but one of the ways that one of the many ways that I see that you guys are making a difference is you and your staff. You guys are teaching young people to be role models at a young age. And I think that's something that I didn't have the opportunity, or I didn't realize. The light didn't go off for me until I got to be an older man and played pro basketball, that you are a role model for the kids in your area. So you take me, for instance, we had the cards. We had the trading cards in Washington, D.C., and I didn't realize how big they were to the community until I got to be an older man, and kids would reach out to me online who I had never met, and they would say, "Hey, man, I have your card from when I was a kid." And so I'm sure you know this, but the impact that you guys, or that we make, or that the college kids understand that they have, it's not you don't have to do it. It's not an obligation, but if you can remember back, so if you take a college kid, 21 years old, if you can remind him to remember back to when he was 10, 11, 12 years old, before you became this college superstar, to remember what a kind gesture from a college athlete would do for you when you were 9 years old. And I think that's pretty easy to do. You just have to remind that kid to think back and give these kids what you would have wanted to receive when you were that age. So I'm sure for you and I, even though we're older men now, yes, it's pretty simple for us to remember the love that we wanted at 10 years old, that maybe we didn't receive. And so, especially when you and I do things with the pros and they're traveling or what have you, we just try to show them the details or the small things. I think it's the details to make kids feel wanted, right? Because you and I come from a time period where coaches didn't show you a lot of love. So I'm sure you have a chance to really affect these kids' lives in a positive way because they depend on your every word, kind of like us as your students do now. We listen and take heed and try to do the best we can to kind of do as you ask us to do. And so here we are, Coach. We're back again tonight. And I think the last time that myself and your daughter, Bettina Ross, we were on was July 8th, 2024. And I'm looking back at some of my notes that I have here. And one of the many topics that we talked about was nepotism, right? We were talking about LeBron James and we were talking about his son, Bronny, where Bronny hadn't played his first NBA Summer League game on the 8th. But today we're on the 29th. He has played a few games. That Summer League has concluded, so we'll get into that tonight. We'll also be talking a little bit about USA basketball with LeBron James and these guys, Team USA, KD. Jaylen Brown seems to have allegedly, Coach, Jaylen Brown seems to have a valid point with him being excluded from the USA team. We want to talk a little bit about that. We want to also talk about our next trip that we'll have on August 17th down to Buenos Aires, Argentina for our job interviews for the month of August. Once again, this is Milton Bell, Global Media. We have Coach Roland Ross, Division III champion. And we, as usual, started off our show tonight with his wife, Miss Bettina Ross. And she led us in prayer to start off. Coach Ross, a lot of big-time questions for you tonight. Obi-Wan, we'll start with LeBron James and a quote that I wrote down. I think you and I wrote down the Wikipedia definition of nepotism, right? Once again, I will read what nepotism is according to Wikipedia on Google. Nepotism is the act of granting an advantage, privilege, or position to relatives or friends in an occupation or field, right? That's Wikipedia's definition of it. I think the last time Bettina Ross spoke on her take as a kid of a legendary coach that was playing AAU. Here we have time, Coach. We have time. We've talked in the past 3 weeks, I think, and we have seen that LeBron James' son had some positive moments, and he also had some negative moments. Where are you today, Coach Ross, Obi-Wan? Where are you on the LeBron James Jr. nepotism, father getting him into the league? You've had maybe 2 or 3 weeks to ponder the question and see how it played out. How do you feel today, Coach Roland Ross, versus how you felt on July 8th about the Bronny James experiment, if you will?
Well, I am kind of somewhat still the same on opportunities given to those based on certain type of variables that other folks don't have. Sometimes you try to ask yourself, even in just playing the game of basketball, is everything balanced out here, or is everything fair? And I think now with, as we can plainly see, those who are basketball people, we're not saying that Bronny is superstar status right now, but what he has done is he has shown to a certain extent that he kind of belongs. And I'm not speaking from the fact of belong with extraordinary exhibiting skills, but he's able to get out there and I think in a couple games he had double digits, and he wasn't a great 3-point shooter, but he made a three. And I think when things like that happen, it kind of shows you that because the alternative would be someone who's granted an opportunity to be elevated in a certain role or a certain position, and they don't perform to a level in which the position is calling for. And I think you can look at nepotism in that manner, that, well, the only reason that they're there is because of this, that, and the third. Well, in the sport world, this particular time, Bronny actually, showed that he was capable of being out there and still in the learning curve stages, and nobody's asking him to be his dad, but just asking him to get out there and to at least, be serviceable, to be considered a pro. And so,
here's a question, Coach. Sorry not to cut you off. Okay, but I want to elaborate and ask you, because you just mentioned something, and for our listeners, I want to apologize. We're not cutting Coach off, but I have to ask this question, right? Coaching question, basketball question. With LeBron James being his father, Coach Ross, the heights that his father has reached, case in point, playing with Team USA right now, LeBron James at 40 years old is the best player on that team. Would you agree? Leading them. Would you agree? Somewhat, maybe.
And that's where the listeners will probably get excited if they listen to part 3 tomorrow night, because there's a young, vibrant coach that thinks differently based on some different type of opinion. I look at LeBron as a extraordinary talent because of his physical attributes.
Yes.
Okay. And then, when you get into coaching, he can do a lot of things. It's really kind of different to say, when you have assembled 12 guys of the best from one of the most prestigious countries in the world, that you can just pick out who's the best on that team or who's the most talented on that team, and sometimes people look at talent based on winning and losing results. And that's, to me, is a little unfair, because you got some of the best talented people have never won an NBA championship. And, you playing against some other people that may have the benefits of winning an NBA chip, but also have the supporting cast to do this. Case in point, you got some people saying that who right now would be comparable to a LeBron James, period, in the NBA. Question to you, Coach Bell. Who's comparable and why?
Right. Well, that's my point. That's the reason I asked, because there's no one comparable. His son, I don't think it's possible for him to reach the level that his father's at.
But I don't think. Again, I don't mean to cut you off. I don't think him being allowed to show that he can play in an NBA summer league and be on a roster is stating that he's going to be equal to what his dad has already done.
Right.
I don't even think that was even in the thought process. Now, with that being said, does he have some talent enough to, in a couple of years or whenever he gets, a little stronger, a little wiser, and all those kind of things, be considered, just an NBA pro? Absolutely. But I don't think there's a comparison between what a son can do to try. That's almost like saying you got a student that's 10 times better than the teacher.
Here's a question, Obi-Wan, Coach Ross. Would you have, did you guys recruit him out of high school? Was he even on you guys' radar? What was his status? And I'm asking an inside question that only you and a few others were privy to. What was the news on him from a college coaching standpoint, if you can share some of that with our listeners?
Well, there are a couple moving parts with that question. Based on, I guess, his dad's status, one, and his son being able to, I'm sure he played at a high-level AAU program, went to, his son actually was a pretty good, decent high school player. I know some colleges that offered him a scholarship that were low Division I's. So I think early on there was some wide open eyes as to how talented he could become. Mm-hmm. But I think over the course of time, those people who probably wanted to take a shot at him just felt like he was going to be a Division I basketball player, which he played Division I basketball player.
Right.
Now, because of some things that occurred early, which we don't know, may have hindered some outstanding performances. We'll never know that based on the things that happened to him medically.
Yes, right. But here's a question that I have for you, and I'm just looking at our notes, and I'm trying to tie it all in, if you will. I'm looking back at what you said on July 8th.
Okay.
And we're talking about LeBron James, and I wrote down something that you said during our podcast with you and you. Number one, I wrote down he has to be a good fit. He has to have the same expectations as your staff. He has to have talent and have work, right? And so just being a fan of what you guys do, myself, how would Bronny James fit into what Roland Ross is looking for as a player? Or could he, or does he, or is it possible? Share that with me as well as our listeners, because I would love to know the answer to that question myself.
We're Division III, okay, which is a little below some Division IIs and Division I's, but we think very, very highly of our program, that we excel at a high level. But let me back up a little bit. Sometimes stardom can miscue what people think, but the reality has to come back to the person that, for case in point, if my dad was a movie star or a singer, naturally everybody says the son is going to follow in the dad's footsteps. And I might not be able to hold a tune, but naturally people say that. In the sport world, you got a great example. My guy at Colorado,
Deion Sanders?
Coach. Deion. Okay, I'm sure when Deion was coaching his son at, I want to say Jackson State.
Yes.
Okay, everybody in America would love for their child to be better than the parent. But you're talking about Deion is a potential. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yes, he is. Yes, indeed.
Okay. With that being said, that's not going to diminish how good his son is, because his son is very talented as well.
Yes, he is. Yes.
And he's a right fit. He will be a right fit. And when you start talking about nepotism, people will, instead of looking at what he has done, where he is, they're looking at where he's going to go based on the dad. And I look at a fit differently than that, because I think just because, you know, Deion played in the NFL doesn't necessarily mean that his son, you know, is going to go to the NFL. And I mean, you got tons. I'm a Muhammad Ali fan. You know, I mean,
hey, Coach, me too, brother. Yes, sir. Aren't we all?
You know what I'm saying? And you think about all of the historical, just sports figures, you know, that have had chances, like Doc Rivers' son and the Curry brothers, and you know, people think that because your dad did something that the son is going to exceed that, or the daughter is going to exceed that. That may not be possible. But one thing I can say about Bronny is that obviously he could play Division I basketball because he got a scholarship. Now, with that being said, we're not here to debate if he's going to average 20 points, 30 points, 40 points, or whatever the case may be. But he got a full ride to not a small Division I, not a mid-major, a major Division I school.
Yes, he did.
So, a good fit, I think part of what people are looking at fits as well, that fit for Bronny might have been a geographical move, because, you know, USC is out in the California area, and the Lakers out there, and his dad is out there, and, you know, I'm sure there were a lot of programs that would love to have had him and see what they can make out of him. And that's the other thing that we don't talk enough about. You know, I don't want to mix religion in with, but you know, when you start off as a baby, you know, and people talk about you got to crawl before you walk. You know, well, God blesses a lot of people with a lot of talent, says that they bypass the training wheels on a bike and they're already driving a car, you know, before they're 9 years old. That's slim, you know, and not ordinary. But Bronny had an opportunity to be in a situation where, you know, his dad, I don't think his dad was communicating to the public that his son was going to do this, and this. You know, Bronny had to stand. Like I said, he found a good college fit for him. And I think he is a kid that will always have the spotlight on him because of his dad. And he weathered through a lot of the pressure early on. I mean, think about the conversation we're having right now. You got one of the best basketball NBA players ever to play the basketball game on national TV in the Olympics, representing the United States, and you got his son playing in the NBA Summer League as a pro. I mean, that's pressure without even getting on the court.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna reverse the question. I'm gonna reverse the statement. How do you think LeBron feels about his son's journey?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, you and I know, and I don't even think LeBron James is old enough to realize what you and I do. You don't even want that type of pressure on your kid because it's impossible for that kid to live up to what his dad has done. And he's going to have so many people saying that he's not worthy of that. I saw an article, being that we're talking about it, I saw an article that the star from the USC team that you talk about was Boogie Ellis, who averaged 16 points a game. LeBron's son averaged 4 points a game. Boogie Ellis didn't even get drafted. LeBron and James get drafted second round. So it's levels to it. But I think something that I see as
and let me stop you right there. Let me pause for a minute. Like some people say all the time. Let's rewind and let's rewind and press play. Why to me is it such a, if it wasn't LeBron and it could have been KD's son, or it could have been John Morant's son, or it could have been, Anthony Davis' son. But because it was LeBron's son, and we as just people in general, everybody is looking for an edge on how to find a way to accomplish what they want to accomplish as fast as they can within legal rights.
mm-hmm.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. And so, if it wasn't LeBron's son, say it was LeBron's nephew.
Right.
Me personally, as long as things are done decent and in order, and okay, what does that mean, Coach Ross? Well, as long as those who are in a position to help someone to elevate a dream within legal rights, hey, I'm all for it. Because we as people, and I'm not talking about as race, I'm just saying we as people, we function every single day on what is it going to take for me to fulfill my dream.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be Bronny has a dad that is helping him along the way a little faster than somebody else. Milton Bell, who we're talking with, who was a phenomenal father, but he helped his son fulfill a dream at the professional level. So when we start talking about, nepotism, sometimes that can be miscued as, are we talking about something negative? Or are we talking about something positive that somebody is doing that somebody might think is negative? I think with LeBron didn't play not 1 second in that game for his son. And, if he was a bust or a hero, irregardless of either one, he had to do it. His son had to do it. And that's not necessarily pressure. That's opportunity.
But I have a question for you, Coach, if you don't mind. Let's say you, myself, LeBron James Sr., and LeBron James Jr., let's say we're not in the basketball world, right?
Okay.
You and I, we're blessed to be where we are. He and his son are blessed to be where they are. Wouldn't change it for the world. Let's say we are all working for a huge corporation like Amazon, Apple, Google, right? Let's take basketball out of the equation because you and I know.
But I know where you're going with it.
Okay.
I'm already ahead of you. You know why?
Yes.
Because that is so unfair to the sports world. Even though the sports world is a job, even at what you're talking about, there are standards and criteria and all that kind of stuff. I get it. You know, there's a upward mobility pecking order that people have to go from. You know, and sometimes you don't allow to have your family to have a say so. You know, what you should have just said was, you know, if I was the CEO of Amazon and my son wanted to become vice president, he didn't have to go through all the training like everybody else. But that happens every day. That's the nature of people who have been blessed to be able to accomplish those things. Your son who's playing professional is blessed because he has you as a dad. Yes. And I'm not saying that, and what I said earlier is what I think could help a lot of people to understand. As long as the move of elevation to help someone fulfill a dream or an opportunity is done decent and in order within the rights of etiquette, I'm all for it. Because, you know, case in point, you went to Georgetown University.
Yes.
Okay? Say I went to UVA. Okay? Say you averaged 20 points a game and you was a McDonald's All-American. Okay. Say I was just on the UVA's team.
Okay.
We're both going for the same job. Okay? What makes it right that I get the job and you don't?
Ooh. Deep. Coach, and our listeners, for our listeners that are privy or that will be listening in, these are conversations that Coach Ross and I have often. So I'm appreciative, Coach, that we are having multiple people learn from our conversations. These are subjects and things you and I talk about all the time, but I think we are modifying and we talk about so much. We only have an hour or so here, but I think this is beautiful because it gives people an insight into your genius mind and how you think and how we talk. And we talk to Coach Jones and Coach Peoples and Coach Nevlet. And so these are basketball conversations that we know people are having because we have them. I'm sure you will agree.
Well, at the end of the day, guess what? We are living, blood-feeling human beings.
Yes, indeed.
That operate on opportunity. And sometimes things may appear to be unfair, but if they're done within the limits of right. I mean, you know, I don't think anything that happened with LeBron, matter of fact, you know, we don't know whether LeBron said anything or not. This just could have been something that this might have been considered a business move that really wanted to help a young man to fulfill his dream that was somewhat capable.
Right. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about, and not to cut you off, of course we have limited time, but I would be remiss if I did not talk about LeBron James Jr. leading the nation in NIL money. You would know more about this than I do. I don't know if you've seen it, but LeBron James Jr. was making over $2 million, maybe close to $5 million. Don't quote me on the number, but his NIL numbers were off the charts. I'm sure you will agree.
Well, let's back up, and I would really like the listeners to understand the way that my mind works is I like to process, and I like to not think of the obvious, which would be a negative, to something that could be positive. Because you have corporate America, you got the sport America. Right now, hey, everything is about finances and entertainment. Is LeBron is Bronny worth all what he received for his NIL? I don't deal with the NIL at our level as much, you know. But I will say, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, there's some other prominent people in different sports equally making a lot of NIL money. Now, don't quote me on it, because different schools and different sponsors and all that kind of stuff that I'm not in that. That's you know, I got to stay in my lane. I'm a basketball coach, and I don't, but I do. I have been privy to understand that the business world and the business mind is not always just for the person who's receiving the funding.
Yes. Coach, if you don't mind me asking, while we have you here, I want to ask you, and this is a conversation that I'm sure you will have an answer in your mind. And probably, you and I talk about this all the time, but I want our listeners to understand what's your thought process. What have you seen as far as changes from when you played as a player to now with these young men with the NIL deals? And I see some of these kids buying themselves and their parents' cars and houses. I'm sure it has to bring you great joy to see the basketball player, for you to have gone from a player to a coach, to see these young men have these opportunities. I'm sure it brings you great joy as a man. You and I are now of older age, so I'm sure it brings you great joy, like it does myself, to see this younger generation capitalizing and monetizing these NCAA opportunities.
Well, I don't have much to say because like I said, we have not had to deal with the NIL as much, even though I know that there are young people, men and women, being very well taken care of for their talent. What I have seen is, and I try to get the listeners to understand that this generation that we're in is a full-fledged entertainment generation, marketed by a business principle. And case in point, when you looked at the NFL Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs, I forgot who they were playing, but you're talking about 3/4 of the world, not just the USA, but 3/4 of the world viewing that.
Yes.
Women's basketball, the national championship game with South Carolina versus Iowa, and Caitlin Clark, is that her name?
Yes, Caitlin Clark.
Man, business. And the thing about the business world is that entertainment almost, in some ways, encourages harmony and happiness. There's so much going on. There's so much going on. So much going on in the world that back in the day when I was, look, if it was 75 degrees outside, we in the neighborhood, we're gonna play till it get pitch black dark until the popsicle. No, to the ice cream truck. That's the ice cream trucks don't even come around the neighborhood anymore.
No, I've seen a few.
But when the ice cream truck come around at 9 o'clock, you get your ice cream and go home.
Yes.
But kids now are so entertainment driven. And do I like NIL? I just think that we're compensating a few for their extraordinary talent, and you're leaving out a lot of other good young amateurs that are watching their teammate, prosper when it's a team sport.
Yes.
Listen to what I'm saying. We're talking about a team sport now. That I don't know if everybody on the teams get NIL money because, like I said, we don't deal with that as much.
Right.
But I do know that when you start talking about, and I guess what happened several years ago, which makes it really, really beneficial to the athletes who are getting out there blood, sweat, and tears and performing, is that when you advance Division I in the NCAA tournament and say you win it or get to certain rounds, there's a big chunk of finances that goes to your institution and not to the individuals.
Yes, indeed, it sure is.
And so, there were a lot of that going on, and I just guess the powers of be just say, hey, we gotta start rewarding some of these kids for, just their talent level.
Right.
And because you still are bringing a note, back to Bronny. I'm not, and I don't know, and don't quote me on it because this is not something that I know factually. But sometimes these NIL moves are, yes, they can help out a community. They can really help with the the different people that help sponsor certain things for the school. But it's a move to help the notoriety of the institution to continue to grow and flourish. If Bronny was at UCLA and not USC, getting half of that, the school is still going to flourish because his last name is James, and that's just the nature of that. Michael Jordan, his kids get the beneficial last name of being Jordan. Your son have the benefit of your his last name, or knowing Abel. So those kind of people who are granted certain type of privileges, as long as things are done decent and order, man, that the parent, the dad, or the mom who's ever in the position of elevation, help their children to fulfill their dreams. Hey, you got to almost, because you got to almost like have your heart go out for that, because old folks used to say, man, if you don't take care of your kids, who's gonna take care of them? But I understand the secondary phase of that is the equality, the inequality of if everything is equal, why is he getting something and this other person is not? And that's just the nature of granted opportunities based on some variables that you have no control over.
Coach, that's as usual. This is a conversation that is pretty normal for you and I, but I'm assuming pretty deep for those that are maybe having the first time to tune in to one of our podcasts, one of our conversations, one of our fellowshipping, reasoning sessions. Coach, for those that want to, and I think we've asked you this before, but do you have an email or something for those that want to reach out to you? Or we'll give a company email. How about we give a company email, all of those that want to write in and talk to Coach Ross and have any questions about NCAA rulings or NIL or any of the things that we're talking about, feel free to contact us here at the company at area code 702-908-1501. And our email is milton.bell@miltonbellbasketball.com. That's MILTON.BELL@miltonbellbasketball.com. For any listeners that may have a question, and I will pass on Coach Ross's information. If you have any young students that want to be seen or considered for college or looking for college tutelage or what have you, you guys can reach out to us and we will pass on any message to Coach Ross with those questions or people looking for answers or what have you. Coach, we promised that we wouldn't keep you long tonight, and I think you and I are planning on doing a second part possibly tomorrow or in the upcoming days. So I would like to...
So before you continue, let me finish with a statement.
Okay.
I had a statement I wanted to at least ask you.
Yes.
For the listeners, because I think there's a lot of people out there that have various opinions about that whole nepotism thing, and what I would ask somebody if I was asked to say, well, Coach, what do you think? What do you think about that happening? And my first thing would be is, for my child, I would say, well, you know what? We can take what happened one or two ways. I'm going to work as hard as I can to put myself in position to be considered. That's the first thing. But then the second thing, Coach Bell, is those who are concerned about someone being granted an opportunity based on this, that, or the third. So, John Legend, I'm sure you know who he is.
Yes.
Okay. Martin Luther King, I'm sure you know who he was.
Yes, of course.
Okay. And I don't want to do roll call, but then you start talking about, Michael Jordan, Kareem, you're talking about Dr. J, Steph Curry, KD,
yes,
Charles Barkley. If by chance the ones I named and didn't name that are professionals have been blessed to have a child, what would you say the right way to raise them when they become a young adult and they come to you and say, well, Daddy, you had a great career. How do I fulfill my dreams? What do you do? I just named about 10 guys. I could have named Larry Bird. I could have named John Stockton, and I could have named some old heads like Tiny Nate Archibald. Or I could name Milt Bell. So when people have an opinion or a comment about something that people are being blessed based on some variables that they have no control over, then I'm going to always ask the counter to that. Well, what do you do? If that's the case, then if LeBron has done all this to make his kids and his family and his mom and his wife and everybody proud of him, LeBron James, and at the very least, he can't find a way to help his son, then what are you telling all these other pros out here? And not just pro basketball players, but pro football players. Mahorn, one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. I saw he carries his kids to the game all the time. What are you telling them?
Right.
Oh, my name is Mahorn. No, if you want to play football, you might need to get another name because I can't help you.
But so isn't that our job as parents, though, Coach, to be in a position that if because it's a 50-50, it's a 50-50 deal, right? In order for LeBron James to be able to help his kid, that kid has to be somewhat in that lane. So if Bronny James had been a NASA rocket scientist, LeBron James would not have been able to help him.
But, yes, he would. You know why?
Yes.
Because they would have found a way to connect the dots between how high he jumped to how high a spaceship can get to the moon.
Yes, indeed. Yes, Coach. Or he would have had to have donated more money because he didn't have any friends in that lane.
But that's okay. The key word I'm looking for everyone to maybe say, if they want to, is you got to be in a position to grant someone an opportunity.
Yes, indeed.
It's still left up to the individual to take full advantage of the opportunity to be successful.
Here's a question for you, Coach. Isn't that kind of like of course you and I understand, isn't that kind of what we do with the pros? We give them, you can lead the horse to water, but the horse has to drink. Is that kind of the same thing or not exactly?
It's a little different because when we have these guys to try to go and pursue their dreams to be a part of a team, they can be as talented as all get out, but still they have to meet a need for the organization that they're trying out for.
Yes.
And I think that may be totally different than someone who has name recognition to be able to help their child be elevated to, another level, that some other people don't have that opportunity because they just don't have that opportunity. And I think that's where we all are missing the boat on it is, people who are coming off of high level notoriety parents, they're going to they're going to be highlighted. They're going to be notarized, and those kids, their children, may be granted an opportunity, but they got to do something with that opportunity. And then what we have done is we're sitting there saying to the other kids who want an opportunity, hey, you got to work just as hard, and we can see if we can help you to get an opportunity. I will introduce you to Mr. James to see if you can get an opportunity, because sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I just think, for me, watching Bronny be able to play that first game and then see his last game, he made strides to show people that, is he a star? Not yet. Is he a good teammate? Is he a good fit? Does he have great work ethic? I mean, all those are things that had nothing to do with, somebody being a superstar because of their talent, because this entertainment world, just like with the NIL, I mean, you still have to, be a good representation of what these people are sponsoring you for. So it's all about an opportunity. Like, I thank you so much for just the opportunity to be able to share with people that, when you get into a scuffle with somebody, just like in elementary school, but the same thing applies to adults later on in life. There's two sides to the story. And there's two ways to flip that coin. And those people who take advantage of an opportunity usually are the ones that get successful. Those who complain and don't work as hard, those are the ones sometimes gets left out.
Wow. And it's just like that, Coach. It's that simple. You and I know it's that simple. So
you didn't answer my question. I want the listeners to hear your answer to this question. I told you I had the loaded question for you.
You said that, yeah.
You got to answer the question.
Okay, all right.
Now we are past draft day.
Uh-huh.
We're past the first Olympic game for LeBron James. We're past the end of the summer league for Bronny. How do you think on July the 29th, LeBron James is feeling about his son's journey?
Wow. My personal opinion is, like you said, from having a kid that's going through that, Coach, that's painful, man. To see my son go through his own growing pains in his second year, that is so painful. I'm sure that's why LeBron James is playing. And this is just my personal opinion for our listeners. This is my personal opinion. LeBron James is playing lights out basketball because he's trying to make the world pay for what they're saying about his son. And he's using that as motivation. He hadn't come out and said that yet, but one day he will tell us why he plays so hard. This summer and this coming season, he gonna be lights out, Coach, because of what, and he used it as motivation because you can't help him. It's the craziest thing with me sitting here in the United States. Our son Max playing in Venezuela. When you watch him on TV, you're helpless, buddy. I can tell you that, and it's not a nice feeling.
But you say that you might be speaking from a former professional player yourself. I'm going to take the less anxietized role and say the reason why LeBron is playing his butt off is because he's just saying to his son, hey, you did just fine. Keep working. You might be able to get to this level.
I'll take it from here, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it would be totally different if LeBron spent all this time trying to prove to people what they're saying about his son is wrong. And I'm sitting there saying, what some folks are saying about his son, I mean, you got to tell me what you're saying about his son. I mean, the young fella scored double digits in 2 to 3 summer league games. He's a good teammate. He works hard. They have a developmental program. So when we start talking about personal opinions of the dad's thinking about his son's journey, I just think it's amazing for a dad to be saying, if you're just blessed to come sit on the bench and watch me in my career the next couple of years, and you might be able to play a little bit, man, do you know that? Do you realize how that family dynamic would? That's just to me that's so emotional. To be at the highest level of a career, and you got your son right there watching, and on top of it, I'm sitting here looking at the Olympics, right?
Right.
And everything I'm going to say to you is what we may say most of a part 2, but Serena Williams, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She sat right here on national TV and was saying something to the effect that she was talking about how she, I guess, just got into a mental level of purpose of wanting to be number 1 in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But who was number 1? Who was she targeting and talking about that motivated her to get to that point? Her sister.
Wow, Venus. Wow.
So, what, and the other thing for me is, what negative can come out of getting upset about what is happening with Bronny, then folks just saying, I hope he does well and keep it moving.
Right.
Because you know as well as I know, in corporate America, on a lot of different fronts and a lot of different professional jobs, sometimes it's not the most qualified, the folks that keep it, that gets these opportunities. So, we're not even going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about, once you get the opportunity, you still got to do something with the opportunity.
Well, Coach, wow.
Amen, somebody.
Amen. Coach, how about we end there? I've kept you here about an hour and 2 minutes, going on an hour and 5 minutes. But I want us to close out on that note. But I'm looking forward myself to the upcoming episode with you and I, which we plan on doing this week. Elaborating a little more on the NCAA, the qualifications, what it takes, and talking a little more about USA basketball. We'll have a chance to see how KD and LeBron, Kevin Durant, LeBron James continue. Steph Curry is out there too. How they will continue to carry Team USA to a victory, God willing. We also have some incredible elections, the political avenue heating up with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Joe Biden has relinquished his spot moving forward. So I'm hoping by next time we have our podcast, we'll have some more updates on these topics that we've taken. Today is July 29th, 2024. And we are blessed once again to have on our Milton Bell Global Media podcast, Division III championship basketball winning assistant coach at Christopher Newport University, Roland Ross. Milton Bell Global Media. We'll have some more updates for you guys coming up here on our social media feeds. Once again, if you have any questions for myself or Coach Ross, feel free to contact us at milton.bell@miltonbellbasketball.com. Once again, our company phone number is area code 702-908-1501. Coach Roland Ross, I want to say thank you for tonight. Once again, we are honored to have you with us, and also your family, your wife with us to lead us in prayer to start off our night. And looking forward, Coach, I'm sure you will have more. You and I will continue to put our heads together on a weekly basis to come up with great content for our listeners. And I'm looking forward to see what questions every week that we talk. Every time we talk, I always seem to get questions asking me about certain topics. So I hope to compile a list of questions for you that we receive from our parents and young men that want to know about the topics that we're talking about. So I look forward to hopefully having some questions to be able to ask you from the listeners that you have, that we have around the globe, Coach. So tonight we'll be signing off once again, July 29th, 2024, with our championship winning coach, Coach Roland Ross. I want to say thank you, Coach, once again. Before we let you go for the night, I promise not to keep you too long, and I'm keeping up to my promise, but I can't say thank you enough, my brother. It's priceless what you do for us here with our media company, and sharing your words and wisdom, brother. It means the world to us on this end, down here in 804.
The pleasure is mine.
Obi-Wan. Thank you guys for listening tonight. Coach, I'll talk to you a little later. All right, guys. Sir.